Nyanji Chimbo Sultan Hingmijan, Zonan Honam Chimbo, Yagada, Lagardargan Sando Shirmardo, Tomba Tiji Jan Laki Shamsar, Najar Sering Jankansu, Jahar Tidishan, Yella. Jimmy Punzo Jala Sorano, going to get to Bampo or Shinji. Going to get to Bampo or Shinji, no, going to get to Bampo or Shinji, no,
The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in billions of eons. I now see it, hear it, receive it, and uphold it. I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. Now let us continue with the Mahayana Sutra, Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention. This time, studying this sutra, I myself feel that I have benefited quite a bit. Though I have studied it before, about 24 years ago, but I've forgotten quite a bit about it. So this time, I'm very grateful to have such an opportunity to study it all together again, which helped me to contemplate on the Dharma, contemplate further on the Dharma. It is very helpful to myself. I think all of our audience over here, let it be the Dharma masters or abbots, or if you have, or if you run a Dharma center, whenever there's an opportunity, I really encourage you to organize sessions where people can study the sutra together. This would be very important. It's quite important to persevere and to pay lots of attention when you're studying. It is said that persevere in studying for 10 years without anyone noticing it, but once your knowledge is known to the others, you will be well known in this whole world. I'm sure lots of you can have the opportunity to propagate the Dharma in the future if you study diligently right now. There are lay practitioners or monastics nowadays who are gathered or who are surrounded by the ones who had already made connections to the Dharma, but maybe because of their arrogance, they've made the mistakes or misdeeds of slandering the Dharma. Therefore, not only we're going to study this, we should remember the teachings. If you have good memory, then memorize it in your heart. If not, write it down on your book or notebooks and then review it from time to time. That would be quite important. If we were to treat every class, every study opportunity very seriously, then that would be very helpful to everyone. Just like the worldly classes nowadays, they would charge 300 or 400 RMB per class, which is a normal rate nowadays. And the students, if they know the importance of their studying, if they are mature enough, especially if they're not from a good family, if they don't have, if they're not from a wealthy family, they would feel that they've wasted the opportunity if they don't study hard. So similarly, each and every of our Dharma classes are valuable. Not only, we should not, of course, we should not compare our classes to the English or math classes, because each of the different classes have their different values. But the way we treat each of our Dharma classes, to treat everything in our life, we should see them as of great importance. We should pay great attention to study and contemplate and then practice them in our daily life. This is quite important. This time, I think that we don't have that many audience. It's probably the least number of audience that I've ever taught in the past 10 years. But, oh well, I can still accept that fact. I am still content with the numbers of audience who are listening to this class. because not everyone could stay in their comfort zone forever. That is not practical to expect that, especially since we've studied impermanence for such a long period of time. All the changes in our world is just a natural, it's just a natural law. So even if there are only a few people listening to this class, I still encourage you to contemplate and to remember the teachings from the sutra. Previously, the Buddha already taught the 7 types of people that should not be taught of the Bodhi way, such as the one who has strong jealousy, arrogance, and who are untamed and doesn't have any faith and have lots of greed. All of those kind of people should not be taught with the Bodhi. And the reason is not that the Buddha would protect the kinship but not protect the enemy. It's not like that at all. It is, in fact, if the Buddha were giving the teaching to all of these said above people, they are not going to get benefited. They won't receive all the benefit. Rather, they could probably make even more of the misdeeds. For example, if you were to give teachings to the ones who don't have any faith at all, they not only they do not accept it, they probably would slander the Dharma. The ones who are untamed and who are very arrogant, if you were to give teachings to them, they won't be able to receive the teachings properly. Rather, they would use those teachings as a way to slander and to give up on the Dharma, and there are such possibilities. So for such reasons, the sentient beings, just like the Ichantika sentient beings, it is not that they do not have any seed of Bodhi, but temporarily speaking, these kind of sentient beings cannot attain liberation. Even the Buddha cannot do that. It is not that the Buddha is not compassionate or doesn't have any wisdom. It is because the Buddha knows the perfect time and perfect condition to give the teachings. When it's not the perfect condition, then he would not give teachings. This sutra is a Sutrayana from a Sutrayana tradition, and this translation is from Sui dynasty, which is far away from now, which is the time that's far away from now. The Tibetan translation is also a little bit difficult to understand. The Dhamma-raksha's translation is even more difficult. So this time I spent a lot of time to make comparisons with the ancient Chinese version, with the Tibetan version, and with the Tibetan version. Therefore, I think it would be difficult for you to make all these kind of comparisons. So I'm going to continue to give the teachings based on the Chinese translation. If there are some obvious differences from the Tibetan translation, I will give you a hint. I will definitely talk about it a little bit. Now this time we're going to study this text based on this version, and this version is translated by, what's the translator's name? Vinita Ruchi. Okay, so let us continue with the actual sutra. At that time, the Buddha told the Venerable Shupati. Shupati didn't appear until now. Previously, it was Maitreya who appeared and asked questions. And now Shupati appeared in the sutra, and he said that you should not pronounce prajnaparamita to those who adhere to the view of dualism. Shupati, as the foremost in understanding prajnaparamita, the Buddha then told the Venerable Shupati, saying that you should not pronounce the prajnaparamita to those who hold the view of dualism. what does that mean? The ones who hold the view of dualism. That means that those ones who either hold on to the view of existent or hold on to the view of nihilistic, those are the ones who adhere to the view of dualism. So to such kind of people, you should not give them teachings on prajna paramita. According to the Tibetan version, it says that for the ones who has two minds, and over here it also shows it's similar to the dualism in terms of views. Previously, we've also learned in such a way the content is similar, and today the Sutra talks about the similar thing. Whenever it comes to the Dharma, we should not come down to a definitive conclusion by saying that this is right and the other one is not right. We have to be very careful with that. There are Dharma teachers, maybe his idea is special or his personality is different, but we should not judge them or criticize them at all. Paulso Rinpoche used to tell stories of how Manjushri used to go to the royal palace and liberate the women over there. Also, there is a famous story of how Venerable Atisha expelled Matripa. So all of those stories, we've studied them before. There was another story that Paulso Rinpoche used to teach us, and he used to tell us the story of a great master from Tibet who attained rainbow body, and his name is Pema Dindan. He really enjoyed playing games with children when he's in his later time of his life. Sometimes he would play something like a chess on rock boards. Some pebbles symbolize kings and the others are the retinues. So he would play those games with children, either play those chess games or play throwing rocks, throwing pebbles. He would throw those pebbles into the sky. In Tibet, lots of children would play those games. You know those games, right? He would play those games and engage with children. But there are people who don't understand it. They would think that you are a great, accomplished Mahayana practitioner. Why would you play with those ignorant children? Paulso Rinpoche, however, said that there are great masters who may appear to be very simple and even play games with you and with children, and those kind of actions attract certain people because they feel that these kind of actions are very humorous and really fun, so they really prefer it. And there are people who don't prefer this kind of actions. They think that these kind of actions are not appropriate. So different people have different ideas. However, as great accomplished one, in fact, they have their own ways to benefit sentient beings, to make the sentient beings happy. And slowly, with such kind of method, they would tame their mind stream. Therefore, we should not judge the others. We should not judge the right and wrong, the good and the bad. We should not judge in such a way, and we should not jump into conclusions. We should know that. Over here, it says that the ones who decide that everything or all phenomena is existent, or the ones who said that everything is void or is non-existent. For these kind of people who hold on to the dualistic view, you should not give them teachings on prajna paramita because they are not of the capacity to receive such teachings. Because if you were to say nothing exists, then that is nihilistic view. That is not of the capacity to receive prajnaparamita. If one were to say that everything exists, then that person falls into the materialistic aspect and also not the capacity to, also not having the capacity to receive prajnaparamita studies. So we should know that all the phenomena that appears just like a dream and as an illusion, it appears in such a way, but in its nature nothing exists. There's no such solid existence in its nature, and that's the truth. According to Mipa Rinpoche, when he gives teachings on Madhyamika view, he would teach that in the ultimate view, everything is in the ultimately speaking, everything is devoid of the four extremes and 8 kinds of elaborations. However, everything appears in the relative sense just like a dream and as illusion. That's the kind of understanding we should, that's the kind of insight and understanding that we should aim for. And understanding such, if you were to say that everything exists, it is not right, because the nature of such does not exist. If you say that there's nothing, then all of these kind of illusory appearances appears in our relative world and we can perceive it. Nobody can say that it doesn't exist. After understanding that, you can say that, well, that's true. In the relative sense, it appears as a dream, as an illusion. And when people says that, no, it doesn't exist, it's empty, you should say, oh, yes, in terms of its nature, everything is empty. This is a good way of understanding it. And then Shupati said to the Buddha, no, indeed, world-honored one, as the Buddha says. And the Buddha says that indeed, Shupati, giving alms without being attached to the alms giver, the recipient, or the alms given is called bodhi. According to the Tibetan version, over here, it says that Shupati, the one who do not have the dualistic view, is called bodhi, or the one who does not have any grasping is called bodhi. And it's a little bit different over here. The translation according to Dhammarakshas is that the one who do not abide is called bodhi. But over here it says that the one giving alms without being attached is called bodhi. So the translation is a little bit different. Then Shupati said, indeed, world-honored one. The Buddha said to Shupati, indeed, Buddha said, Shupati, giving without praising oneself and criticizing others is called bodhi. This part is not included in the Tibetan and the Dhammarakshas translation, so it jumps right into the next passage. Anyhow, over here the Buddha said that if one do not praise oneself and not to denigrate the others, this is giving, this is generosity, this is without grasping, that is bodhi. In fact, when we talk about the bodhisattvas vow, if one were to praise oneself and denigrate the others, that is the fallen sin, or that is the fallen misdeed. So it's quite important to remember, do not praise yourself and denigrate the others. I think everyone probably heard of these, but you should really use these kind of teachings to observe your own speech, not to say that to observe your own speech. Do you usually say that you're right and the other one's not right? Do you always think that you're right and your school is right and your study is right, your view is right, your thinking's right, your mind is right, your actions right, but the others are not not right. Our eyes tend to see everyone has mistakes, and we don't see the mistakes of ourselves. This is the kind of things that, this is the kind of illness that we usually harbor. Nowadays, people usually say that Donald Trump is the king of knowing everything, because he always says that I know everything when it comes to architecture and when it comes to military, when it comes to every aspect, he would say that he knows everything. Therefore, in China, people would call him that he is the king of knowing everything, Mr. Know-it-all. But maybe not just him. In fact, many people, I think I myself included, whatever I talk about or whenever there are things that I feel interested in, I would say that, oh, I know a little bit of that. I can't say that I know everything about it, but I know a little bit about that. This is just the kind of habit that we usually have. In fact, whenever we really look at our own mind stream, we tend to praise ourselves and denigrate the others. According to the Western mode of thinking, they really like to praise themselves and denigrate the others. In fact, in some ways, they would think that critical thinking is really important, and praising oneself is considered as confident. But in Asia, and for the Easterners, usually we would say that, well, I can't say that I don't really want to give this speech because I'm not good enough, but I was told that I have to give a teaching, so I have to gather all my courage, and I actually feel quite embarrassed in Tibet and in the Asian culture, in the Eastern culture. It is very common. Before their speech, they would say that, oh no, I'm not qualified, but because I have to make the speech, I'm kind of put onto the spot to give a speech. And in Tibet, they have this, the Tibetan Jomos, the Tibetan nuns, they have this habit, whenever they feel embarrassed or shy, they would show their tongue, and then they would sweat a lot. They would say that I'm so embarrassed. So in such a way, everyone's very different, including whenever I receive any notes or letters from Kempos or from the supervisors, they usually would say that you're a foolish disciple, you're embarrassed disciple. They would sign their name in such a way. It really shows that they don't have a sense of confidence. But the Westerners don't do that at all. They would think that if you're really foolish, why would I listen to you? Why would you give a speech? If you don't have any self-confidence, why do you come onto the stage? So the style is very different between the West and the East. In the Madhyamika, it talks about selfless, the no self. Once we talk about the no self, they probably, once I give them teachings on no self, they feel kind of appalled by that term, because they feel that they're very self-confident. Maybe that's because they never studied Madhyamika. That's why they don't like selflessness. Anyhow, over here it says that not to praise self and denigrate the others in this body. And Shubhati then said, indeed, world-honored one, the Buddha said, Shubhati, when you see fools who, for the love of their kinfolk, greedy for a living, wrongly adhere to the view of self and its belongings, and enjoy accepting offering from others without any sense of shame or dishonor, you know that they do only evil karma. Nowadays, in our world, if you were to accept others' offerings appropriately, when everything is done appropriately, it is fine, it is allowed. Even in the precept of the Buddha, it is allowed. But there are people who have lots of self-grasping, and in order to make a living, they would receive offerings from the others. Either they would deceive the others, or they would blackmail the others and then receive certain offering or giving or alms from the others. This is quite this is definitely quite horrid evil karma. According to precepts, only the ones who have a pure precept and who have attained liberation, who are not tainted by afflictions, can receive the offerings from the others. If indeed this is quite of a high level of requirement. Khenpo Deba, in his autobiography, he said that once he went to a China mainland area and received some offering, and because of that, he haven't had any good dreams for a long period of time. It probably was because of enjoying the wealth of the Sangha, which burdened him in terms of his karma. That's what he wrote in his autobiography. In such a way, look at all of our Dharma teachers over here. I think some of you probably have such capacity to digest, so to speak, these kind of alms. Let it be that you have pure precept or high level of enlightenment, or you have this kind of capacity. But there are the ones who probably don't have this kind of capacity or are not qualified. Then, just like according to the Sutra, it says that if one were to receive the alms and offerings with impure mind, in the future lifetimes, in innumerable future lifetimes, one will encounter lots of obstacles and endure many sufferings. Karma is not something that we can manipulate. Especially according to Theravada tradition, karma is very subtle. Sometimes when you violate it, in the future lifetimes, you will have to suffer or experience the karmic fruition that comes from it. We usually say that people nowadays would create negative karma in a happy way, but would have to endure the suffering with lots of tears and wailing. Buddha told to Shupati, especially whenever one has self-grasping. I think Buddha told Shupati in such a way, especially once we have self-grasping, which is really scary. When a bodhisattva understands emptiness or have some kind of understanding of emptiness, then whomsoever make offering to you or using the wealth or alms, all of those are dreamlike and are like illusions. And that person who understands a little bit of emptiness or have such understandings will not have any grasping. If one completely and thoroughly understand Prajnaparamita, the wisdom and the nature of all phenomena, then maybe that person would appear to wear clothes, to eat, to walk, and receive alms, but that all of those won't create any obstacles to that person. Other than that, as mundane beings, we have such strong grasping towards self, and whatever you have, the I and mine. Therefore, in terms of your actions and your what you adapt and what you choose to do in terms of your karmic actions, then after this lifetime, if you don't do that, if you don't be careful with all your karma, then after this lifetime, after departing from this human body that you have, then in the future lifetimes, the karmic retribution will be quite severe. In terms of the Buddhist view of karma, it is very different than the other schools, than the other religions. On one hand, it definitely helps you you to be more disciplined in your action. On the other hand, you can use other ways such as confession and chanting mantras and using prayer wheels to generate merit, which could help you to work with the negative karma or dispel all of the negative karmas. Furthermore, ajita, sometimes Shuputi would appear.
那下面怎么讲的呢？就是说那个。
sometimes Shuputi would appear, and then now back to Maitreya, the Buddha said to Ajita, Bodhisattvas should have no fear of any dharmas.
不要说是这个，怎么说啊？就是解释的时候，菩萨对一切法呢，就是要么这个说这个一切都是菩萨法。 就这样不要生恐怖。然后菩萨呢，就是对一切法，
all of the dharmas are the bodhisattva's ways. Therefore, do not generate any fear. Do not have any fear.
有些可能声闻乘的人呢，就是他
such as dharmas of Pratika Buddhas, voice hearers, or ordinary beings.
大乘这个菩萨呢，
What does that mean? It means that there are
都是为大乘而所得。 就是为大乘而做
的。 The voice hearers or the Pratika Buddhas, they feel that all the Dharma is the Dharma of voice hearers, and all the Bodhisattvas think that all the Dharmas are taught to the Mahayana vehicle, and the Pratika Buddhas would think that all teachings are given to the Pratika Buddhas or the Dharma of Pratika Buddhas. In fact, it has the two levels of meanings. On one hand, the bodhisattvas should not generate any fear.
就在这里是只有一方面的，前面只有一方面的，然后后面就是好像两方面都有。意思就是，可能等会儿下面就是大家应该知道。那同样的，菩萨呢，就是对一切法呢，要说是这个辟支佛的法啊，就我们说
At the same time, the bodhisattvas should not feel that all the dharma is not bodhisattva's dharma and generate fear. There are two aspects, and later you will be able to understand what it means. Similarly, if one were to say that all the dharmas are taught to the Pratika Buddhas, or all the dharmas are not taught to the Pratika Buddhas, then the bodhisattvas might generate fear. Or to say that all the dharmas are taught to the Pratika Buddhas but not to the others, the bodhisattvas may generate fear. In fact, you do not need to generate any fear at all.
然后菩萨呢，就是对一切法，就是凡夫法，就是也不用产生恐怖。然后菩萨呢，
the bodhisattvas doesn't have to generate fear towards the dharma of Pratika Buddhas, the voice hearers, or ordinary beings. Sometimes we would say that the Dharma is Theravada's tradition's Dharma, the Dharma is of the Mahayana vehicle, or of the ones of the voice hearers. In fact, you don't have to worry, you don't have to fear of those. If the Dharmas are of the voice hearers or of non-voice hearers, of the Pratika Buddhas, of the non-Pratika Buddhas, of the ordinary beings, or of the non-ordinary beings, if one were to say that the Buddha Dharma are the ones that's practiced by ordinary Buddhas, ordinary beings, you can say yes, of course, of course. If one were to say that no, it's not for the ordinary Dharma, it is the teaching towards the noble ones, you can say, oh yes, yes, that's true too. You don't have to worry. You can just say yes, yes, yes. If you were to say no, 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 then if you were to say that I need to debate with you, actually, you don't have to generate such fear. According to some of the Zen koans, it also says that this is good, that is also good, this is yes, 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 then that was good, good. Everything's okay. So we can use this kind of method. We can use this kind of way of looking at the dharmas. And then it says that
一切法呢，就是说是这个涅槃法的话呢，也不用产生这个恐怖。一切法呢，非涅槃法也不用产生恐怖。然而遇难仅仅也莫生恐怖，就是那是可能就是
or difficulty in making progress or afflictions. You don't have to generate affliction. Don't generate fear towards afflictions. Ending of dharmas or difficulty in making progress, right or wrong, act or no act, fear or fearlessness, existence or non-existence, mind or no mind, enlightenment or no enlightenment. So over here it goes on for a long list. The Tibetan and Dharma-Rakshas versions has the both aspects, but in this particular version only has one version. It only says that afflictions and non-afflictions, dharma and ending of dharma, difficulty in making progress and no difficulty of making progress. So it shows in such a way. Anyhow, over here it says that you do not generate fear of karma or no karma, good or bad. If you truly understand that everything is fine, then your mind would be like an ocean that could embrace all the rivers. Lots of times whenever things happen to us that we cannot accept, it is because our mind is very narrow. And over here it says that all of the positive and the negative can all be included. So to continue, it says that fear or fearlessness, existence or non-existence, mind or no mind, enlightenment or no enlightenment, karma or no karma, good or bad, peace or no peace, liberation or no liberation, training or not training, dharma or non-dharma, serenity or turmoil, true or false. People nowadays generate lots of fear towards true or false. People will feel that that person is a charlatan, that one is not. In fact, it's fine. If someone wears mask, that's a real mask, that's fine. If it's a false mask, it's fine. If you hold on to one, then you have to. If you hold on to one end, you have to say no to the other end. In such a way, you grasp onto one thing. Believe or disbelieve, good thoughts or bad thoughts, abiding or not abiding. Thus, bodhisattvas do not have fear of any dharmas. I think the previous one, I believe many people won't be able to accept those teachings. You probably can't even imagine how you can say both the extremes together. Many people would probably feel lots of fear. In fact, that's how we usually would react to the prajnaparamita emptiness. In terms of the quoting from the Mahaprajnaparamita Shastra, it says that the great power of prajnaparamita can move the two types of people. Can move the two types of people in two different ways. The ones who do not have any wisdom would feel lots of fear. The ones with wisdom would feel delighted. I've quoted from this a lot. Prajnaparamita can move the two types of people in such a way. In our relative way, we can say that everything is dualistic. Temporally speaking, in our appearance, in the relative world, there is something right and there is something wrong. In terms of your family, there are the royals and there are the the ones who's from a different lower caste. And if you remember from Vimalakirti Sutra, it says that there was one goddess who is well endowed in everything. And Shariputra said that you have all the beautiful, all the wonderful endowments. You should vow to become a man. Why don't you transform yourself into a man or getting rebirth to be a man? And the goddess says that, well, in the 12 years of practicing, I've been searching for the characteristic of a female, but I cannot get it. Now, let me ask you, is it necessary for one to search for the illusory female characteristic and transform such illusory female characteristic into a male characteristic? And Shariputra said, oh no, if it's illusory, then you don't have to, but you're not. You're female and I'm male, and you should transform into a male. Look at your eloquence, your wisdom, everything is really good. You should become a male. You should become a man. And then at that time, female right away transformed herself into Shariputra and Shariputra into goddess, and then asked Shariputra saying that, when did you turn into a man? And Shariputra said, no, how come I can't transform anymore? I should be a man, I'm not a woman. At that time, he's still holding onto such kind of grasping of male and female. At that time, she asked that if you cannot transform, then all the female characteristics cannot transform because you are female. But if you are male in a true existence of characteristic of male, then all the characteristics of female do not need to be transformed. Even if you want to, then it's not possible. After expressing in such a way, Shariputra understood what Buddha said, that there is no characteristic of man, no characteristic of woman. There is, it is existent and it is not existent. And that's when the goddess let Shariputra transform back to his original form. So at that time, Shariputra understood completely. Vimalakirti also told Shariputra saying that you should not look down on this goddess because this goddess is quite a wonderful practitioner. You should not look down upon her. Now we look at these dualistic we look at dualism. We feel that emptiness is right. We feel that emptiness is right is because our habitual pattern studied in such a way. But in reality, or in the true form, or in the ultimate way, emptiness or non-emptiness, existent and non-existent, the relatively appearing or emptiness in its ultimate form are all none of them exist. Some people would think that truth is existent and anything illusory is not existent. Now, just think about that. There are two types of people in your dream. One is real, and the other one is false. In fact, that is not true, because neither does the true person or the false person would be existent in your dream. Whenever learning this kind of teachings, it definitely give people fear, and especially whenever we analyze it. When we analyze in depth, there is no truly existent Dharma. Therefore, do not generate any fear. It is not to say that we should not. It is not to say that we should not differentiate what is right and what is wrong. Does the rock abide or not abide? The rock doesn't have abiding nor not abiding or good thoughts or not good thoughts. But that's not the highest realization. We all know that the rocks realization is not the highest realization. We should in fact understanding both relative and ultimate and not having any grasping. That kind of realization is enlightenment. Otherwise, if you stay in the stage of not knowing, that is ignorance. In the West, there is one saying said that ignorance is bliss. If you don't know anything behind, if you don't know any truth, if you don't know anything behind the veil, and think that you're happy, that is not appropriate either. That is not appropriate way of practicing either. So over here it says that you should not abide onto either of the two sides. This is indeed very important. We usually would say that this is right, the other is wrong. We have such differentiation between the right and wrong. In this illusory appearance, we can say that, we can work in such a way, but in reality, in the ultimate reality, you're right and wrong, and maybe slandering the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Your so-called right and wrong could be slandering the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. You should pay attention to it. Ajita, because I have trained in the past in such fearlessness, I have attended Samyak Sambodhi. The later part is a little bit different. I can know the mental states of all sentient beings without notion that I am the knower of what I know. I expound what I have realized according to the capacities of bodhisattvas, enabling those who have heard the Dharma to require the radiant Dharani seal. Having acquired this Dharma seal, they will never regress. If one does not truly know the Dharma of fearlessness and speaks without eloquence, one will not ultimately attain the unsurpassed Bodhi. If you do not understand on the dualism, if you don't understand emptiness existent, then that person do not have the skillful means and will not be able to attain the unsurpassed Bodhi ultimately. The translation over here is a little bit different. Now I have to be very careful with the different translations. I have to be very careful with making comment on it, because I don't want to slander the Dharma. I don't want to commit such kind of negative deeds. I am trying to talk in a way that is skillful. I'm not sure how long it will last me. I know that whenever you hear some kind of teachings, temporarily you would have a very strong feeling and imprint from that teaching, such as not slandering the Dharma. But after a while, maybe you can't really practice, or you can't adapt that practice in your daily life anymore. This mundane sentient beings really have to study the Dharma more often, so that you can correct lots of your habitual patterns. If you don't study, if you were to completely indulge yourself into the worldly dualistic thoughts, then you will be lost in that. If you even study a little bit of Dharma every day, it will slowly and slowly help your mind stream. To listen to the Dharma and to contemplate and practice is indeed very important. Over here, the explanation is a little bit different. The Buddha, over here it says that the Buddha, based on his previous enlightenment, and the teachings he given to the sentient beings, and which had led the bodhisattvas to attain fruition. But the Buddha, he himself does not have any grasping. And because he does not have such kind of grasping in his mind stream, he does not create any kind of misdeed. of slandering the Dharma. The Buddha continued to say that Ajita, when I expound the Dharma to the sentient beings here in this small world comprising 4 large continents, by virtue of the spiritual power of the Buddha, each of them sees me, Shakyamuni Tathagata, expound the Dharma only to him. The sentient beings in the 4 large continents, each one of them would see the Buddha giving them teachings individually. And in the same way, from one heaven to the next, up to Akanishta heaven, each of the sentient beings there also says that the Tathagata pronounces the Dharma only to him. In fact, if the sentient beings have genuine faith and have the karmic connection, then the Buddha would appear in front of them and give teachings to them personally. The great spirit, in fact, the spiritual teachers also would also give teachings in such a way. As we studied yesterday, when the Buddha sneezed, 3 different people receive different benefits. Of course, if someone has wrong view, he probably would generate wrong view. He would probably think that, oh, the Buddha would sneeze just like the mundane being. That's really filthy. As I said yesterday, the doctor, nurse, and the patient, the 3 of them, they gained different benefit from the Buddha's sneeze. Similarly, when Phuntsog Rinpoche gave teachings over here, he said that when he relied on his guru, even when his guru made a joke or a smile, or when he appeared to be wrathful, he took all of those as an expression of taming his own mind stream. He had never generated even one moment of wrong view or dislike. Unlike nowadays, there are people, whenever they listen to the spiritual teacher or Dharma teacher's classes, they often would think that, oh, this teacher is just so nagging. Oh, that teaching must be wrong somewhere because I remembered it was wrong. And then, or that master doesn't look very elegant. If I were to sit on the throne, I would be much more elegant and decent. Or think that, well, that teacher doesn't have good eloquence, and would probably think that, why does he cough all the time? Why does he sneeze? Why does he drink the tea all the time? In fact, through the mundane being's eyes, not to say that only the mundane Dharma teachers, even if the real Manjushri Bodhisattva comes to give you teachings, they can still see mistakes. Everyone's very different. Their sacred outlook's different, their views different, and that's probably because the connection, the dharmic connections and karmic connections are different. When Phuntsog Rinpoche relied on his teacher, he relied on his teacher only for 6 years, and Khenpo Deba relied on his guru, that is Khenpo Bempa from the Poyo area. He relied on him for 7 years since 20 years of age, and he received Khenpo's degree after 4 years. But his life completely transformed in such a short period of time. I truly admire these great masters. When Phuntsog Rinpoche sees his master, sees his root guru, he fully shows great respect to all of us. We would see that for all of us, we would see him as a true bodhisattvas and Buddha. And I would think that sometimes there are people who would view these great masters as mundane beings. Phuntsog Rinpoche once in the cave of Nepal, he said that we see Padmasambhava just like some sages who have great merit, but to Nepalis and Tibetans, they would see see that we now see Padmasambhava as great sage who has great merit, but to the people then in Nepal and in Tibet, they would feel that Guru Padmasambhava didn't dress up really well. He's an old man or something like that. That's how it differs from people's faith and pure outlook. If one were to have pure mind, just like Pontsuk Rinpoche, when his guru has only one smile or a simple gesture, all of these kind of expressions are a way for him to eradicate his afflictions in his mind stream, or a way to directly pointing his mind, the nature of mind. When we rely on our teachers, we should definitely adjust our attitude. On one hand, I have to say that I'm very fortunate because I have met a great master. On the other hand, I feel that I am not like the great masters from the past. Though I had never generated any wrong view, even for an instant, especially to my root guru, and never disturb their mind. As long as they're the teachings given by the guru, I've received them completely. Over here it says that the Buddha in front of different sentient beings, the sentient beings would think that the Buddha himself would come to them personally to give them teachings. Similarly, the sentient beings from the four continents, from the 3,000-fold world, they're the same. The sentient beings would think that the Shakyamuni Buddha born in our country and give teachings. The ones from the Jambuvipa feels that Shakyamuni Buddha was born in Asia, on our planet, and then turned the Dharma wheel in our world. The sentient beings in the other worlds also think in such a way. Ajita also, the Buddha then said that Ajita, with such great power, in the morning, using great skill, observe everywhere sentient beings in the immeasurable, boundless worlds and expound the Dharma to those that should be transformed. In the midday and in the evening, I observe sentient beings impartially with my Dharma eye and expound the Dharma in their worlds. The Buddha would expound the teachings in various ways. Sometimes he would appear in the way of Brahman, or sometimes as a Shramana, sometimes as kings, sometimes as bhikshus, sometimes as butchers, and even prostitutes. In various forms of this world, the Buddha would turn the wheel of the Dharma to the sentient beings. Such as the state of innumerable Buddhas, all sentient beings that are learning to be bodhisattvas should train in this way. So the sentient beings should study in such a way, should learn from the bodhisattvas. The bodhisattvas and Buddhas are permeating in this world, and they are existent everywhere. We shouldn't think that there are a few great masters. There are a few masters here and there. There are only about 3 or 4 of them in this world. They are the Rinpoches. They're the wish-fulfilling jewels. They're the ones such as Pontsuk Rinpoche. In fact, we shouldn't think in such a way, because Buddhas and bodhisattvas, they are in all sentient beings. They are they're permeating everywhere. And the sentient beings should all be like bodhisattvas. That's how we should practice. That kind of practice would be the best. When giving this teaching, we shouldn't feel that, oh, this is someone from a low class, and this is a person who is an ordinary being. That one is a voice hearer, and thinking that the voice hearer's Dharma is not good, is not supreme. In the later part, we will learn that if we were to say that some Dharma is supreme and the other ones are not, this is also slandering the Dharma. Pontsuk Rinpoche also said in the same way. He said that when he thought about he's been giving a he's been giving the teaching of the Dharma for his whole life, and maybe had violated lots of maybe he had made lots of the negative deeds for a long period of time without confessing. That would be quite horrid. So we should definitely confess. At the same time, we should pay attention to our body, speech, and mind. As a practitioner, that's what we need to do. We need to tame our own mind stream and become a person with the right mindfulness. Those fools who malign the true Dharma pronounced by the Buddha adhere to their wrong understanding as the right understanding. Those who malign the Dharma do not believe in the Buddha. Because of this evil karma, they will fall into the hell to undergo multitudes of suffering, never to hear the Dharma. Previously, we've learned the story of Dharma Bhikshu. He would say that what I say is right, what the other says is not right. Or to say that the Nimapa's Mahayati is the best, and the other Dharmas are not as supreme as the Nimapa's Mahayati. If you were to say something like that, that is slandering the Dharma as well. If you were to think that whatever you learn is the best, then you should look at this sentence where it says that those who malign the Dharma do not believe in the Buddha, because this is evil karma. According to the Great Heat Jewel Sutra, it says that all the nature of the phenomena are equivalent to the Buddha Dharma. Therefore, all the phenomena are Dharma. We know that all sentient beings has Buddha nature. If everything is the object of Buddha nature, then we can say that they are all Dharma. From this aspect, we can practice, and we will practice well, and we will understand that some of the heretics, they also have their understandings, and those understandings, maybe their practice levels and insights could lead them to be reborn in heavens and in the higher realms. In this way, we acknowledge that all phenomena are the phenomena that we can accept. All dharmas are the ones that we can accept. Anyhow, we have to pay attention to our grasping towards different religions and different schools. Long time ago, around the 90s, I wrote an article on how the different religions and different schools are not conflicting from one another, where I quoted from the great masters from the past. Lots of the teachers are the manifestations are the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Let the teaching be Madhyamika or Mahayati or Mahamudra or any of those sutra or the Mahayana, all of those practices and teachings, in fact, the final destination of those teachings and the ultimate meaning of them are the same, though there are different paths and roads that leads to such kind of goal. This is quite important to understand that. But in our life, in this life, since we are born with the connection to this particular school and to this particular teaching, you can practice the teaching from the school, but you should not practice. But you should not praise yourself and denigrate the others. We should not denigrate the other schools and religions. Don't mention about talking about it. If you were to do so, you won't be able to attain enlightenment. You may even create obstacles for yourself. We have to be very careful about that. After learning this teaching, we should observe ourselves. This is really important. Lots of people don't even know that they violated those or they made misdeeds. So we should study and contemplate and practice this. Just like Pongso Rinpoche, he said that there are, just like Pongso Rinpoche said that maybe there are people who are violating all of these every day, but because they don't know, but the karmic variation would be really horrid because the karma is ever
那么这个福赐呢，就是这个佛告诉阿逸多啊，就是当知受持如来名教，以方便以善方便就是观为人说。
started to study the Dharma for a short period of time, and we can understand this teaching. And now all we need to do is to pay attention and to adjust our mind. Then the Buddha further said to Ajita, saying that you should accept and uphold the sacred teaching of the Tathagata and widely pronounce them to the others by skillful means. Over here, the sacred teachings of the Tathagata doesn't mean Mahayana teaching. It only means that the Dharma teaching of the Tathagata.
其实它这个用法上面密教的话呢，就是也是这个非常深深密密的，就是这样的这种教法。那么这是第一个方面。
On one hand, it means that they are the Mahaprajna Paramita Dharma. It also means that it is the profound and sacred teaching of the Tathagata. So that's one aspect that you should uphold and you should protect these teachings. On the other, you should protect these teachings and you should give these teachings to the others with skillful means. You should make such kind of aspiration that I will try my best in lifetimes to protect the correct dharma, and not become the one who would destroy the correct dharma. In fact, only protecting is not enough. You have to protect the dharma text, the stupa, and the statue. All of these are included in the category of protecting the teaching of the Tathagata. As Dharma practitioners, we also have to propagate the teaching to the others with skillful means. In whichever era we're in, there will be obstacles in terms of propagating the Dharma. Even during the Buddha's time, throughout history, we would be able to see that even during the omniscient Mipa Rinpoche's time, he said that the sentient beings are so difficult to tame. Same as Alon Chenpa, he also said that this is the time when the sentient beings are the most difficult to tame. Also, Pamasambhava and Yeshe Gyatso, in their teachings, we can say that they also said that during this time, the sentient beings are the most difficult to tame. In all the times, they're very difficult to tame. So we can see for each of the Dharma teachers, they appear in different time and different era, and to tame sentient beings is always difficult. It's not that easy. Even after 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, 200 years, the great masters would appear and they would also say that the sentient beings are difficult to tame around this time. Anyhow, whenever it is time to tame the sentient beings, we have to generate or we have to develop this skillful means to propagate the Dharma. This is really important. Sometimes I really feel that all the people who are listening to this teaching, you should develop confidence and perseverance, because you will have the opportunity to propagate the Dharma. Sometimes our environment is a little bit difficult. Sometimes our causes and conditions are not mature, but it's not going to last for a long time. Just like how the weather sometimes it would be cold and sometimes hot. In this world, let it be the history, let it be the current situation, or in the future, sometimes it's going to be a little tightened, sometimes it's going to be a little loose in terms of its policies. There are going to be lots of changes. Sometimes you feel that you're studying well, and during this time, I think what we can do the best is that we should engage in study and be well prepared for everything in the future, so that when we have the opportunity to propagate the Dharma in the future, everyone should think that even to one person, 10 people, 20 people, I will give them teachings and sow the seed of liberation, and slowly those seeds will blossom and will come to fruition. I think that would be the best. text. Though over here the words are very short, it only says that you should accept and uphold the sacred teaching of the Tathagata and widely pronounce them to the others by skillful means. This is really short, but we should remember it. I really hope that you can write it on your notebook. Nowadays, I know that young people really like to make tattoos. If you really want to make tattoos, you can tattoo it to you can tattoo this sentence onto your body, your heart, or your forehead. No, I shouldn't say that you should tattoo it. People would say that you said that the Buddhists shouldn't tattoo, and you say they can tattoo. You must be a bad teacher. Anyhow, I have to be very careful with my speech. Anyhow, I don't really care about other people's criticize anymore. If they really want to criticize me, as long as it doesn't pain your lips, then be my guest. Anyhow, I really want you to remember this sentence over here. Not only remember, you should use this as a way to propagate the Dharma and teach the sentient beings. We should stop here today.
Sonam dai tamche zubanya tonani be jana pashe Kirgana jira long chubayi chabim solen roa